Welcome everyone to the CELPIP Speaking Part 7 Expressing Opinions Analysis. Now I'm just here in the Speaking Part 7 of the CELPIP library. And before we get started, I do want to remind you that Speaking Part 7 focuses on CLB 7 plus or higher. What does that mean? Well, that means that if you need to get CLB 7 or higher, then you need to try to do very well in this part. You need to try to make sure that you answer this question your best, not part 3 or 4, right? Part 3 or 4, it's a very simple picture, just describing the picture. And that part, if you answer that part well, it doesn't show that you are level 7 or higher. But if you answer parts 1, 6, and 7 strongly, then it will show that you are a level 7 or higher. Okay? That's what that means. Also, it means that if you need CLB 4, 5, or 6, then this part you don't have to worry so much about answering strongly, because this part is more difficult question topics, and you need to answer with using more difficult language. In your case, lower levels, you should make sure you should answer part 2, 3, 4, and 5. Those parts are more for lower levels, okay? All right. And then I also want to remind you about our Speaking Part 7 Expressing Opinions Tips and Strategies video. Now that video will give you a more in-depth analysis of some tips and strategies that you can use for Speaking Part 7, how to manage your time, how to organize your answer, how to read the question, what to think about. Some of the tips and strategies that I will be using in this analysis, you can find more information about that in the tips and strategies video. And I will be leaving a link in the description box to that video. Okay? So let's get started with today's analysis. Public transportation. Very good topic. So then, this CLB 5-6 sample includes 4 sections. The first one is the video analysis, which you're watching right now. The second one is vocabulary building. Now, vocabulary building, everyone, especially lower levels, we need to improve our vocabulary, right? So this is a really good exercise. You have some vocabulary words, their meaning, synonyms, antonyms, okay? And then the best part is we have this sentence over here, and you need to read the sentence, and you need to try to complete the sentence with one of the words from the list. The bylaw, regulate officers, industry officers, regulatory, oh, enforcement maybe? And then we write the sentence over here, okay? We write it, and then we see how we did, okay? So that's a really great way to improve our vocabulary. Then we have grammar building. Grammar building, it's great to improve our grammar knowledge. Now, level 4, 5, and 6, we still are learning grammar. So this grammar exercises will really help you improve that. Today's grammar lesson is about gerunds and infinitives. So we have some explanations here, some really good explanations. Also would like to. We read the explanation, and then we have some practice exercises where you read the question by "I hope to see you again," and then you write the sentence. Okay, you write it in the box, and it will really help you. And then after, you check your answers. Okay, you have here a sentence. Amy had a lot, so I offered to help her, maybe? Mm-hmm. So you write your sentences and then you check your answers and you can review. Very good. So then, let's get started with our CLB 5-6 sample answer, okay? So, as you can see, we have Part 7, expressing opinions, preparation time 30 seconds, speaking time 1 minute and 30 seconds, okay? And, well, the first thing that we should try to remember is that we should try to, you will have a notepad with you. And in that notepad, in those 30 seconds, which is not a lot of time, but maybe you can take a few notes. I would say write 2 ideas to talk about, okay? That will be good. And now, everyone, let's remember that for this level, we need to try to speak as much as we can for 1 minute and 30 seconds. Just keep speaking. That's very important for fluency. The more speaking you can do, the better. And really, for level 5, the more you speak, the better, okay? For level 6, we should speak for at least 1 minute. Now, we should always think about answering the question clearly and directly. And let's try to organize an answer. And for that, everyone, I will be following this speaking guide. This guide, it tells us how to organize our answer. Introduce the question, first idea, give examples, explain, second idea, give examples, explain, maybe third idea if you have a chance, and then a closing statement or conclude. I will be following that. Okay? It's very important to try to organize, especially for this level. It will be if we have an idea of what we should do, then we will speak more. Okay? Okay, so then let's read the question. Do you think that public transportation costs for buses, trains, etc., maybe taxis or other services, should be increased or decreased? Uber, why or why not? Explain your reasons. So, very good question. So, public transportation, okay? Taking the bus. I'm not sure if you take the bus here in Edmonton, Canada. Many people drive, but we do have a pretty good bus system and many people use it. Okay. And so the one thing that I can tell you is that here in Canada, in Edmonton, my hometown, and also in other cities, the cost is not so low. It's about $3 Canadian dollars one way. It's pretty high, right? $3. So it can be expensive. There is a monthly pass that you can buy, and that's about $100. So that's not bad for the monthly pass. So, anyways, okay, what do you think about that? Do you think it should be increased or decreased? Now, one problem that lower levels always have is not having ideas, right? Well, no matter what the topic is, because this topic will always be something like an issue, something more difficult. What we should try to do is try to think about the main topic, which is public transportation costs, increased or decreased. What about if I don't know the vocabulary, right? Well, try to think about it. Level 5, 6, level 6 should know increased and decreased, okay? Now, level 5, maybe, maybe not. Depends how much you studied. Okay, increased, higher, decreased, lower. Okay? So if you know the words, if you don't know the words, then you just need to maybe try to speak about the topic. about public transportation? Anything about that? So sometimes when you have the issue, which is public transportation, maybe you don't know what is increased or decreased. So maybe just talk about what you know. Okay, this is a problem for level 4, 5. Level 5, you may not know anything about this topic. Okay, that's why part 7 is more for higher levels. Okay, that's the reason. But level 5 should know buses, trains, and other things. Okay, so I would think that maybe this topic would be something about buses and trains. So, if you're not sure about the topic or the words, just try to speak about what you know. And I mean level 5, right? You could say, I think buses are good for the city and trains are good for the city because they help people. Also, I think we need buses. People need to go to work. You see, I'm just talking about the topic. Okay, I'm saying this in specifically for lower levels, 4, 5, that you may not know about public transportation and you may not know what is increased or decreased. And in part 7, that can happen. So again, lower levels, don't worry, level 5. If you don't speak anything about this question, you can still get 5. Yes, if you speak better in part 2, 3, 4, and 5, you can still get 5 if you don't speak anything in this question. Okay? Because this question is not for level 5. So, level 5, 4, 5, just try to speak anything. Now, level 6 is a little bit different. Level 6, you should know some of these words. All, most, if not all, you should know increase. Maybe you're not sure about decrease, but you should know them. And you should also know should. And you should know about public transportation. So, level 6, you should know how to speak something about this topic, okay? So that's what we are going to try to make an answer for level 5, 6, and level 5, follow along, and level 6, let's try to build this, okay? So the first thing we need to do is introduce the question directly. The more direct, the better. Okay, from my point of view, for some reasons, I think public transportation costs should be increased, but for other reasons, I think they should be decreased. So then, everyone, so look very carefully. I'm just following the question. Public transportation costs should be increased, but for other reasons, I think they should be decreased. Now, I want to tell you that in this answer, we are going to try to say for some reasons increased, for other reasons decreased. I think that can be easier for you. Okay. Usually the questions with an issue or the questions these about expressing your opinions, you need to say why it's good and why it's not good. So this could be easier, okay? But you can also say why only increased or only decreased. You can say that. But I always think that when we try to speak about both sides, it can be easier for us to speak about both sides and to speak more for 1 minute and 30 seconds, okay? So let's keep that in mind. Also, everyone, so the parts that are in blue, that is the part that we can use for structure and for connecting, okay? For connecting our ideas. We can use that for any question. And then here the red will be the main grammar form of the sentence, okay? All right, very good. And black, every other part. So now we introduced the question directly. So now let's get to our first side, first idea, okay? First and most importantly, I think public transportation should be higher because it's very expensive to have for the city. Okay, so public transportation should be higher, okay? Higher, that's increased. Why? We said why? Because it's very expensive to have public transportation in the city, okay? It's very expensive. Well, I know that in Canada it's very expensive. Okay, that's why the cost is very expensive. So that's a good idea. So we said it should be higher because it's very expensive to have. Okay, so now let's give some examples. For instance, or for example, we need good buses, trains, and taxis. And we need to pay the workers well. Also, the streets need to be clean and in good condition. Very good. So here you can see, everyone, we are giving examples of why it's very expensive to have public transportation. Okay? We said they should be high because it's very expensive. And then we said we need good buses, trains, and we need to pay the workers, and we need to have the streets clean. I know this is important, right? And all that, the city needs to do that. So that's why the costs should be high. So now let's just put one sentence to explain that more. So transportation costs should be increased. Very good, everyone. So you see, we gave a really good idea of why we think it should be high. We gave some examples and then we explained. That's what we want to do for our ideas. Very good. Okay. Should be. We're just following that. We're giving advice. So when we give advice, we say you should do this. Okay. So using those modals, it's very good. So now let's go to the other side. Remember, I'm going to say something about the other side. Okay. And it says, on the other hand, however, I think we have too much air pollution from people driving too much. That's true. Air pollution, dirty air. We have too much air pollution. Even here in Canada, we have too much air pollution. But I know that in other cities, they have more air pollution. So we have too much air pollution from people driving too much. Okay. So what? Okay, then let's give an example or explain. So it is a great idea to have cheap bus and train tickets so people can use them more. Okay, very good. So you see, we said we have too much air pollution. So then we should have cheap bus and train tickets. And then people will use public transport more. I think we should put, okay, that's them here means bus and train tickets, but I will change that to public transport. All right, so in this case, we gave an example of too much air pollution and we explained that we should have cheap bus tickets. Very good. So now let's get to a closing sentence. Okay. Overall, I strongly believe that public transportation tickets should be higher because it's an expensive service. But it should also be cheaper so people can use it more. Let's put cheaper here. Right, so that's what we said. You see how I'm just saying in my closing sentence what I said here and here. Should be higher because it's an expensive service. I said it's very expensive. But it should also be cheaper so people can use it more. You know what? We can put here and we can have cleaner air. Let's put that because we did say that there. Okay, we can have cleaner air. That's a good idea. Okay. Can use, let's put public transport more here. Okay, so you can see here, everyone, that our closing sentence says again our opinion. And that's what we want to say all the time. We want to keep on saying our opinion. Okay? And now, this answer for sure is 6. Okay? For sure it's 6. Why is it 6? Well, because firstly, we've organized very well. Introduced, first idea, we gave an example, we connected to the topic, we gave an ideas for the other side, and we explained, and then we had a closing statement which with our opinion. Everything we said is very clear and direct. Okay? This is very important for level 6. Also, okay, 2 good ideas. 2 good ideas with explanations. Now, the vocabulary here, everyone, is not very high. This vocabulary for sure is level 6, okay? And also level 5s we should understand. Now, it's 6 to 7, okay, in the quality. Now, level 5s, we don't need to speak so much like this. Even if you can say one idea, that would be level 5, okay? If you say one idea and explain, all right? So this amount of speaking, this much speaking is more for level 6, okay? And even 7. Now, another important thing that I want to say is that remember what I said earlier, we don't need to say on the other hand. We can say, also, I think we need to pay the workers so much, like we said over here. We can say another reason. We can say another reason why I think it should be higher, or another reason why I think the cost should be lower. We don't need to say both, is what I'm trying to say, okay? Okay, everyone, let's not forget that this is speaking. So This quality answer can even be higher, maybe even level 7, if you speak it very well. Okay? And when we speak it, we need to speak it in 1.5 minutes. Okay? And we need to speak it with good flow and intonation. Flow and intonation, let's remember, that's speaking slowly, clearly, and continuously. Okay? So that's very important. So I'm going to speak it now for you. And while I speak it, please follow along. And also, please notice my flow and my intonation. I'm going to try to say it as much as a native speaker as I can. Okay? All right. So here I go. From my point of view, for some reasons, I think public transportation costs should be increased, but for other reasons, I think they should be decreased. First and most importantly, I think public transportation should be higher because it's very expensive to have for the city. For instance, we need good buses, trains, and taxis, and we need to pay the workers well. Also, the streets need to be clean and in good condition. So, transportation costs should be increased. On the other hand, however, I think we have too much air pollution from people driving too much. So, it is a great idea to have cheap bus and train tickets so people can use public transportation more. Overall, I strongly believe that public transportation tickets should be higher because it's an expensive service. But it should also be cheaper so people can use buses and trains more and we can have cleaner air. Okay, everyone. So you saw, I said it there in 1.5 minutes. Now I was trying to speak slowly, clearly, and continuously, but you saw that, or you heard that I made some pauses and I increased or decreased my pitch according to the sound, to what I was saying or the part of the sentence. So having that kind of emphasis or expressing ideas that way, it's important, everyone. We don't want to sound like a computer, okay? Okay, so to practice, what can we do to practice? Well, to practice, we need to make sure that we read and understand this answer completely. We should read and understand the structure. How have we connected ideas and what have we done to organize? We need to understand the ideas, okay? Very important to understand the ideas, the grammar, okay? The vocabulary. And we need to understand how ideas are expressed. Very important for lower levels, okay? And then, or I would read it as many times. Read it once, twice, 3 times, 4 times. Okay? That's the first part, until you can understand it. Secondly, we should try to read it and speak it in 1.5 minutes, like I did. Start slowly. Make sure you're pronouncing everything correctly. Okay? That's very important. When we practice reading and speaking in 1.5 minutes, we should try to make sure that we are pronouncing everything clearly. Okay? That's important. And So read it and speak it in 1 minute and a half, once, twice, 3 times, 4 times, 5 times. How many times? Well, I would suggest speaking it until you can say it on your own in 1 minute and a half without reading it. Can you do that? Test yourself. Everyone, when we try to speak it in 1 minute and a half without reading it, you might not say everything exactly, but you should try to say it from your knowledge. It's not about memorizing, everyone. We should not try to memorize. We should try to understand first, like I said, read and understand, then read and speak in 1 minute and a half. And you should try to keep these ideas. Okay? If you can keep the ideas and how they are expressed, then you should be able to speak it in 1 minute and a half without reading, especially level 6 or 7, okay? Level 5, we might have some difficulties at first, but the more you practice, the better, okay? So, for that, everyone, I will be leaving a link in the description box to our lesson sample, okay, along with our answer. Here it is. And we can read it and practice, okay? Also, let's not forget about the vocabulary and reading exercises, okay? Vocabulary and grammar exercises, sorry. Those vocabulary and grammar exercises will really help you build your vocabulary and grammar for this part. Okay? Also, everyone, don't forget about our CELPIP library. Okay, CELPIP library includes over 60 examples of speaking part 7. Okay, all these topics will be really good for you to develop your knowledge about speaking part 7. Okay, so I strongly recommend, artificial intelligence. Wow. I strongly recommend that you subscribe to the CELPIP library. Okay, and for that, with discount code CELPIP79, you can get a 3-month subscription to CELPIP library for $10.99 Canadian. Wow. $10.99 Canadian for over 100 exams almost, because we have version 2s of reading and listening, okay? So that will really, really increase your skills and knowledge, and for English in general, everyone, okay? So I strongly recommend you subscribe to the CELPIP library. And don't forget, everyone, practice makes perfect.